The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Book Club show on Inspire 105.1 FM. My name is Imrana Mahmood and I'm really excited to be bringing you a new book and some lovely guests on today's show. So I hope at the moment that Ramadan has been going very well for all of you, and I think it's just really important that we're able to give platform to different people and different age groups to talk about some of their love of reading and writing. So today we are joined by some students from Al Hikmah Girls School. I'm really excited to be talking to them about some of the writing that they've done as part of a book titled Empowered, which is the theme of the writing. But we're going to go straight to talk to actually the English teacher at Al Hikmah Girls School, who is hopefully on the line. So that will be Aisha. So, Assalamu alaikum, Aisha.
Walaikum assalam.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
Really well. Thank you so much. I just guess the first really for our listeners to get a context of what this book Empowered was about is it's obviously an anthology, but how did the idea happen and why did you as a school want to get involved?
So we've actually been involved with the Young Writers, it was a competition for 3 years running now. And in particular, this year's focus was poetry, with the theme being empowered. So I think the reason why as a whole, the English department decided to get involved was poetry as a topic is studied throughout from year 7 to year 11. So it's a great way to kind of take their learning outside of the classroom. They get to work on it at home, obviously share ideas in the classroom as well. And it's just that extra enrichment where they can really get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so great to be able to do that in terms of give students opportunity to extracurricular enrichment, like you said, is fantastic. So what was the process of create, or like you said, obviously it's part of the Young Writers competition. So what was the process of contributing to the anthology? Were you doing part of lessons, but I think you just mentioned some of the work they did at home. So you just had to submit something. It'd be really great to get a feel for how that worked.
So it was actually introduced, obviously they're studying it in English. However, in their form time, which they get 20 minutes of every day, we had a focus on this poetry. So the form teachers introduced the competition, gave them some ideas on what they could write about. And they really just explored, it was a discussion-based activity. So they discussed what they'd like to write about and what it means to be empowered, because obviously we wanted to focus on the theme. So after the introduction, form times we just focused on writing it, and obviously the girls who decided to get involved, which was quite a few. I mean, every year we have at least 30 to 40 girls contributing. And so then they had a deadline. And once they submitted, mashallah, we had about 21 students who got their poems published. So it was more than half of the girls who applied.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. It's an amazing number, and it's just it's so lovely actually to be able to have that, isn't it, in terms of an opportunity to contribute something and then to have your work printed. It's something so special in that, so that's fantastic. So it's really great to hear obviously some of the context about, I guess, the Young Writers competition, about the theme of empowered. Is there anything in particular, do you think, because in the current context we look at the social political climate when it comes to Muslim women specifically, there's this whole thing of actually where we're usually labelled as almost being disempowered or somehow oppressed and these kind of things. So do you think there was another reason, or was that also on your mind when it came to this theme at all, and was that discussed as part of the conversations?
Definitely, yeah. I think as a girls' school as well, a lot of the projects we get involved in is really the back story is like how to empower the girls and really help them recognise that, although the media paints Muslim women in one light, but really the reality is completely opposite. And as a girls, it's really important we take it quite serious to kind of open doors for the girls, so that they can really achieve anything they want. We always get involved in women empowerment days and so on. So I think this is just another way to show themselves more importantly, but even as well that, you know, you can do something quite great.
Exactly. No, and I think they've done a brilliant job of kind of rising to that challenge, which is fantastic. So for our listeners, I'm going to introduce our wonderful guests as well, so student guests. So we have Asma, Zuleika, Jamila, Nawal, and Ruhi. And so on today's show, you're going to have a chance to listen to some of the poems that they've written. But before we do that, I really wanted to get an idea of how, I guess, you know, individually your interest in poetry and writing started. So maybe if we start with Ruhi, should we start with you? Yeah, where's your interest in writing and poetry started?
We started studying poetry in year 8, and I just found it interesting how people can present their emotions and feelings through words.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. I think poets are so, I mean, all writers definitely, but poetry, there's something really, yeah, interesting about the way you're able to convey that, those emotions. Definitely, you know, no, I completely agree. Nawal, how about we're going to go to you next. What about you? What inspired you to write or poetry for, specifically?
I really like poetry because it's amazing to see how people can convey their feelings, emotions, and the different perspectives on things through words.
And is poetry something you've read like from quite a young age, or did it just start with, you know, when you were at Al Hikmah school?
I used to do these kind of competitions when I was younger as well, and I really liked writing poems, and it was just a really nice way of expressing how I felt.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's lovely to hear, because obviously self-expression is definitely a big thing, especially I guess for young people, you know, like yourselves as well. Okay, next, Jamila, the same question to you.
So, at first I wasn't that interested in poetry, but then quite a while ago I started getting into it.
So could you just repeat that? Just I didn't quite catch the first bit. Did you say it's something you weren't interested in the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then what changed that then? What was there a specific moment that you can remember that actually made you really interested?
At school we had to do the competition that was run by the same thing.
Right. Okay. And have you had much opportunities to like study different poets, or like how has that all come about, or is it just you've just been given like the skills to write your own?
We did start doing it at the beginning of the year.
Fantastic. Okay. And Zuleika, how about yourself? What's inspired you to write?
I've always been interested in poetry, and I love the way how people can express their feelings and emotion just by writing it down, especially in lockdown. I wrote like lots of poems to express my feelings. Right,
that's really, really interesting. You know, I just spoke to somebody yesterday on my show, and we were talking about something similar on a previous show actually, and she was saying, yeah, the same, that actually lockdown was really different for different people, where some people really flourished with their creativity, other people would have obviously maybe struggled a bit more. So I think it's fantastic, you know, you've been able to write. And how do you think that writing during lockdown helped you? Like, what was it? Yeah, how was it helping you?
Because in lockdown, we weren't able to socialize with people and stuff.
Yeah.
And I couldn't express my feelings with other people and my friends. So writing poems really helped me.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, amazing. And Asma, how about yourself?
I wasn't really interested in poetry before, but then we started learning about poetry, and then I started to like it. So then I took the opportunity with this competition to do it.
Right. Okay. And what is the feeling like of like submitting to competition? I mean, is it quite like nerve-wracking, or I don't, did you get any support before you were submitting, in terms of, did you share your poem with anybody else to get their feedback or anything like that?
Yeah, I would let my friends read some of the poems that I made, and then they helped me with it.
Yeah. And what is the feeling like when you're sharing something that you've written with somebody else? Do you like, how does that make you feel once they've read it, and then maybe they kind of tell you what they think?
a bit more like calm and like more supportive.
Yeah, supported, definitely. I think that's such a huge kind of turning point, isn't it? I guess when you've written something and then you share it, and then if you get some feedback, it can be both, like, it could be constructive, or even, just generally like really positive. It's so nice because it's, I guess, quite a vulnerable feeling, isn't it? Because you're literally sharing your feelings, like a lot of you said, and you're sharing your emotions. Sometimes then obviously it means that there'll be people who you don't know who are reading your work. So maybe just come back to Ruhi. When you think about the fact that your poem is in this book, Empowered, and that there'll be people out there who are reading your work, like, well, how does that make you feel?
Well, I don't know, it kind of makes me nervous. Like,
Right, yeah.
people who like perceive it how I do, but I suppose that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but that's always an interesting thing, isn't it? Because you've got now no longer any control when you're writing your own work on your own like book, but suddenly there's people reading it. Yeah, you can't control maybe how they're perceiving stuff, and yeah, so it's a really interesting dynamic. But no, that's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. So maybe we just talk a little bit more about your specific pieces. So at the moment, we can maybe read them a bit later, but can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to write about the particular theme? So maybe let's go the other way around. So let's go back to Asma first. What inspired you, or how did you choose what to write about for this book or for this competition?
I looked around like the nature and everything, and I realized how there's loads of differences in the world, so I wanted to write about that.
So you wanted to write about like differences in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what is it that you're hoping, the reader, when they read your piece, how do you want them to feel? What message do you want them to have from it?
I want them to know like that the differences, they don't like, they're not a bad thing. Differences help in the world, and it's how we make respect and things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a really, really important message to have. No, that's amazing. Zuleika, how about you? About what was the title of your piece, and what inspired you to write that one in particular?
My title of my poem was Snow, and I choose to write about snow because I really love the season winter, and I love the scenery in winter, and there's a lot of things to talk about for winter.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, when I read it, winter's not necessarily my favorite season, but actually reading your poem, I just thought, wow, I really want it to snow again. So, because I think because spring is kind of my favorite season, but it's just the way you wrote it, and it was so like there was an element of fun, and then I thought about my children, how much they love snow. So I think you really encapsulated this feeling of what it means, when it's winter time. So it was great to read. Okay, Jamila, what was the title of your piece, and why did you choose to write about that?
My poem was called Quality, and I chose to write about that because obviously around the world there's like racism, there's ageism, there's sexism and ableism. So I thought it would be nice to spread awareness about that, and then
Yeah, definitely. It's such an important piece actually, because you kind of do raise awareness of all the inequalities, I guess, that are happening in the world, and you're obviously almost challenging that, and it's so great because I know obviously you're still quite young, and to be able to talk about such important topics is fantastic, and then again obviously to do it in a poem it was great to read. Nawal, how about you? What was your piece, and why did you choose to write that?
My poem was called Secrets Within, and it's about how an individual can have an effect on another person and how they can make them feel in their daily life.
Yeah. And why did you call it Secrets Within? I'm just really interested.
My poem is basically about how a person can't really reflect how or say how they're feeling, and how around them make them feel like that.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's a really engaging title. Like there's definitely a hook there. Because naturally, I guess part of the human condition, as soon as someone says secret, you're like, oh, I wonder what it is, which is obviously not necessarily a good thing. We shouldn't be going around spreading secrets, but this is obviously completely different. This is really about the internal self, isn't it? And you're kind of really exploring what it means to I guess on one hand, we're talking about poetry and the way you can express yourself. But I guess there's another part of us that sometimes we hide things, or we're forced to hide things, so, I think it's a great topic, definitely a really great theme to write about. So that's brilliant. And I think, so last but not least, Ruhi, what was your piece called and what inspired you?
My poem is called Awaken, and it's about how yes, so if you're
when I read it, I guess I was thinking that, again, there was like a positive message to it, I think, in terms of what you were writing. And what I really liked, I know you'll read it a bit later, is you were kind of addressing at some point, when you say kind of dear stranger. And it was really lovely because you're trying to connect, obviously, with somebody you don't know who you're hoping will read your work. So I don't know, am I kind of right if I say that? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think it was, all the pieces were, I think what was interesting, even though the theme is empowered, you've all approached it in a completely different way. You've written about, completely different things. And I think that's the beauty of poetry, and that's the beauty of writing, because as writers, I guess you get to choose, and it really depends, I guess, where your own feelings are at and how you express them. So that's brilliant. So I wonder whether we should, I know, Ruhi, actually, yours is the slightly longer piece. So I'm wondering whether that might be good to share with our listeners now in the first half. So if you're happy to read it, that would be really, really amazing. And then what would be nice is actually just to get, the other students' thoughts as well, and, maybe even your teachers, just to kind of, we can have a bit of a chat about that. So if you're happy to, I'm going to leave the mic over to you, so nice and clearly.
Awaken. If you love something, set it free. It will come back to you if it truly was yours. If you don't see it again, it was never yours to begin with. Let go. Surely it will be yours once again. Surely, if your heart owns it. In many cases, we lose it. Losing things most definitely doesn't make you a loser. Dear stranger, you'll learn from losing. You'll gain more and rise. Pessimistic to optimistic. Loser to winner. No matter what, you must rise, stand up, fly out the pit of despair, awaken from your slumber. No longer should you surrender to the hits of this insignificant world. Have belief in your abilities, feed yourself with courage, empower yourself with words of courage. Continue to do so, and one day you'll be looking down at the words that empowered you. Dear stranger, can you look back at your past and feel as though you've ascended? Overflow of empowerment, your feet will come off the floor. I promise you'll go high.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was beautifully read. It's a beautiful poem. And I think it does definitely, like I said already, there's that sense of staying optimistic, even in the face of loss or whatever kind of struggles that you might be going through. I guess slightly maybe a personal question, but it really made me think that how, do you yourself, I guess, remind yourself to be hopeful, even when there's something that doesn't go to plan?
Well, if there's any unexpected changes in my life, things do happen. You can't plan everything that happens in your life. So
yeah,
grasp onto the change and just try to look at the positive side of things.
Yeah, and it's. Oh, sorry. So were you gonna say something else?
So you can just see the benefit of the change and.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lovely way to put it, because I guess, it's about giving yourself to time, to see the benefit of change. I mean, such good advice, because I'm thinking I'm the type of person, I don't actually handle change very well. Like if I've made a plan and something goes a little bit, pear-shaped, I do sometimes struggle. And actually it was really nice to read your poem as a reminder. And I guess because, of Ramadan, it's a really good reminder as well, because there's a sense of patience, there's that sense of, trusting the creator, and there's all these things that kind of come into it, which is really great. And anybody else want to share kind of their thoughts when you first read Ruhi's piece, or even now that you've read it? Does anyone want to share that, their own feelings towards it? So I'm not going to pick on anybody, if anyone just wants to maybe share something.
I think it's a really uplifting poem. It's definitely for someone who wants to look at the positives in their life and accept changes and just go with the flow that's being created.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like the word that you used, uplifting. Definitely, there is definitely a sense of that, and I think again, especially in the current climate, and I guess we've just been through obviously lockdown, and there was so much, I guess, struggles and negativity, and the things that we were facing, so much loss. Definitely sometimes you do need that reminder, and you do need to be uplifted, and I guess sometimes there's no better way to be uplifted than maybe through a poem and someone else's words. So I guess, thank you, Ruhi, so much for writing it. So is there anybody, Aisha, how about maybe coming to yourself, obviously you being obviously their teacher and kind of enabling this work to happen. Do you have any thoughts specifically, I guess, on Ruhi's piece and just generally the fact that the girls have been able to, write so amazingly about different things?
Yes, I think in particular when I had read Ruhi's poem the first time, it was lovely to see her perspective, her positivity with, when the bad times happen in life. It happens to all of us, and sometimes it can really bring us down, but her approach to it that she wrote in her poem was really positive, and it really, for the reader, it really does, give you a different perspective and keep you positive. And I think it was lovely to read.
Yeah, absolutely. And just actually before we kind of wrap up the first half, have you shared that with your own family and friends, or your parents or something? I'd be interested to know what their maybe a reaction to it was. Well, I know we can hear a door. So for listeners, just so you know, we're not in the actual Inspire studio. All the girls are in their school, so you might hear little doors opening and phones ringing. So just to warn you. But yes, sorry, Ruhi, you were saying.
Yeah, when I was deciding, I actually wrote 2 different poems, and I was struggling to see which one I should submit. So I asked my friends which one should I submit, and they read it and they said the one I submitted was better because it was more positive and
right.
Empowered. And it fit with the theme.
That's great. Okay. And how about at home, people at home, now that you're, technically you're a published writer, right? Because you've got your work in a book. How's that come across? Have your parents, carers, anybody kind of, what do they think about it? I'm just interested.
Yeah, I told my mom that I got published, and she was excited, and she said she was wanted to buy the book and read it, and I showed her the poem, and she was proud.
That's so nice to hear, because sometimes we don't get to hear about how our parents are kind of reacting, and sometimes I guess even in our own communities you never know, but that's so nice to hear, and I think we need that encouragement, and then I think it's so important to be able to share the things we've written at home, whoever is at home as well. So that's amazing. Okay, so we're just going to wrap up the first half of this show. So we are talking to students from Al Hikmah Girls School about their poetry, which was published in an anthology called Empowered. So the theme was Empowered. This is part of the Young Writers competition. So we've just been talking a little bit about their inspiration for writing their pieces, why they, what got them into poetry and writing in the first place. And I think it's really great that when we talk to young people, we really get an idea of that, because I know sometimes the creative arts and creative writing isn't given a lot of kind of importance maybe sometimes. And, the government's cutting funding. There's so much going on, in like kind of on the top level. It's so important that actually grassroots and schools and teachers, and we're really, to use the correct term, which is relevant, empowering, I think, young people, to give them those platforms. And we talked a lot about emotions and self-expression, and all these things are really, really amazing. And there's something beautiful can come out of, the intentions we make, which is really, really lovely. But in the meantime, yes, so we are just going to have an ad break. So you can grab, actually, I was going to say you can grab yourselves tea and coffee, but we're not going to do that because obviously it's Ramadan. So I guess you can just take a moment to pause and reflect on some of the things that we've shared, and we will see you back in a few moments. So assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Book Club show on Inspire 105.1 FM. My name is Imrana Mahmood, and on today's show we are talking to students from Al Hikmah Girls School about their poetry that they've written as part of the Empowered anthology. And in the first half of the show we were talking a little bit about what's inspired them to what inspired their writing, and we had Ruhi also share her piece as well, which was called Awaken. So now I just actually want to, before we go into talking a little bit more about the other poems, to ask the girls actually what their Ramadan intentions are. I thought that'd be really interesting to know and just to share. So Asma, how about you? What intentions or goals do you have for Ramadan?
To complete a khatam of the Quran, which is reading the entire Quran in the 30 days of Ramadan.
Right, mashallah, it's a big and beautiful intention. I like it. Yeah, that's an amazing intention to have. Thank you. Zuleika, how about you?
I want to also finish one khatam of the Quran, and I want to learn all of the 99 names of Allah.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, all the 99 names of Allah. There's a really wonderful book by Chickpea Press, I think they're called 99 Names of God. And there's some beautiful illustrations. And I kind of recall that reminded or helped me, I guess, remember, some of the names. So that's brilliant. Jamila.
So obviously a very common goal is to finish the Quran during Ramadan. So and we will be doing that as well. And Alhamdulillah, I finished in the 99 names of Allah already. So during Ramadan, I want to finish memorizing the meanings as well.
So did you say you've already completed the 99 names of Allah?
Yeah.
Amazing, mashallah. And then what was the last bit? I didn't catch that. If you just speak a bit louder.
I want to memorize all the meanings of things as well.
Oh, amazing, brilliant. Okay, yeah, because I know memorizing. I'm a bit older now, and it's not as easy as it used to be. So no, mashallah, that's brilliant. Nawal, how about yourself?
I want to do 2 khatams of the Quran, and I want to learn another juz because I'm memorizing now.
Sorry, I just missed the last bit. Just repeat the last bit again, please.
I want to learn another juz of the Quran.
Oh, right, mashallah, amazing. No, these are beautiful. And last but not least, Ruhi.
Of course, I'll be reading the Quran too, but I also want to drop bad habits, so during Ramadan it would be a good time to get rid of those bad habits.
Yeah, that's good. I won't put you on the spot and ask you what your bad habits are, because that's not a nice thing to do. But yes, you are right. I think lots of us will know what our own bad habits are, and that's a perfect time to I guess improve on that, and then keep it going after Ramadan as well. So fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing those with us. Right, so coming back to the anthology of Empowered, and obviously we heard in the first half from Ruhi, but I'm just going to invite now Nawal, if you'd be happy to read your poem for us. So read the title and the poem, and then we can discuss that a little bit. So over to you.
secrets within. Someone once said adults aren't supposed to cry, to conceal emotions and not allow others to cry. Like a soldier with an unhealable wound, a painful scar which residues imperceptible, arduously wearing a smile, uttering white lies, returning to haunt them in their later life.
Amazing, thank you. And I know we talked a little bit before about secrets within and why you chose that title. I guess, you know, what really it made me think about is this idea that, you know, society might make it sometimes difficult for people to express their emotions. But what do you think can kind of help people talk more about the issues and maybe get help?
I think the first thing is people need to recognize what's hurting them, and then they need to accept that it's actually hurting them, and we need to go and get help.
Yeah, definitely. Like recognize, yeah, that's two really key words, isn't it? First recognizing, and then so first recognizing, and then did you say acknowledging? Yeah, okay, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, and it's so important because I guess it's only when you do those initial steps that you can kind of feel that you then are able to ask for help, or maybe go to the right people and just say how you're feeling. So it's such a, yeah, I mean, I know we said this earlier, quite an important piece. So no, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, how about Jamila? Would you be happy to share your piece as well? So the title and the poem.
Equality. Billions of people live on this earth, but if we're all the same, why do we act like none of us, act like not all of us are of the same worth? You say equality and justice is all you see, but there's still racism, discrimination, and crime against identities. Violent protests are all the only things that come to mind. What about all the other solutions that we can find? If you can change lifestyles, technology, and culture, then why can't we change the way we see each other? We should treat each other like human beings, even if one's a slave and the other a queen or king. No matter your looks, age, color, or faith, whatever difference, you will still be part of the human race. We live in a world where we can imagine and create, so let's hope humanity will make a change.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you know what, when I read your piece, obviously I had that kind of feeling of it's really important. Obviously, equality is a massive thing, and we need to obviously kind of fight for equality as well. Did you have in mind who the particular audience is for your piece when you wrote it?
Not really. I just thought that like anyone can read it. So, and then it might be able to like shape their minds and change their point of view on some aspects.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess obviously that's what you want to have. You want to have that impact on minds and getting them to think differently. Now, do you have any like your own hopes on how we might be able to achieve equality in the world? I know that's a really kind of big question, but yeah, I was just wondering. Any specific hopes or dreams or ways you think that we might be able to achieve it, even obviously not necessarily on a global scale, but even something smaller?
Like obviously people have had their rights violated already, so then I want to spread awareness to people, and then so they might be able to find their own ways to help.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it's great again that you've chosen to explore this kind of theme and really kind of touch upon the really difficult things like you mentioned before as well about racism as an example, but any type of violation of human rights is definitely a big thing, and especially now I think the media is talking a lot about, for example, Russia and Ukraine, but obviously we know that there's so many different wars and human rights abuses that have taken place for years and years, and obviously we need to be able to talk about them with equality as well, and with recognition that all humans have this rights, and that we should be treating, for example, people with dignity and with all of these things. And I know that's not always the case, but so yeah, it's a really, really timely topic, and a poem that you've written about, so thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to ask Zuleika, would you be happy to now read your one?
Snow. As I sat on my wooden chair, taking in the heat of the warm fire, my eyes could not help but admire. A beautiful blanket of snow had covered the earth. The trees stood tall like skeletons covered in powder white snow. The ice crystals fell from the sky. Oh, what a beautiful sight it was for my eye. As the beauty of this majestic day began to take over, I could wait no longer. I grabbed my coat and raced outdoors. The crystal clear froth crunched under my feet. Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Yeah, that's great. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You know, and again, I know we talked about this in the first half as well about, you know, the fact that winter's, you know, your favorite season. You really wanted to talk about it. I guess for me, it really gave me this idea of, do you think that young people maybe, do they spend enough time in nature, and if they don't, like, is it something you'd encourage, and why?
I think young people don't spend enough time outdoors. They're mostly online and on social media, and I really think it's good for their health, and they should go outside to be able to socialize with people and see the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'm just going to bring in maybe some of the others as well to share their opinion on that. So maybe Asma, how about yourself? Do you think that, I mean, would you say you spent enough time? Would you spend a lot of time in nature? And if you don't, will this poem Snow, does it kind of change that?
Yeah, I do sometimes go outside, but due to like COVID and lockdown, I didn't go out that much. But her poem really makes me like the snow even more than I already do.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, making maybe a snowman or something, I don't know, it's all part of the fun, having snow fights, and there's so many different things actually you can kind of have fun despite how cold it can be. Nawal, what about you? Do you tend to, you know, how, I guess, definitely, obviously, we were in lockdown. We didn't have access to nature and the outdoors maybe as much for quite a long period of time. But do you think that many people have maybe taken that for granted and want to be outdoors in nature more now?
I think they do, because it's really nice to see the world through your own eyes and not just the eye of a camera.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, sorry, go on. Yeah. Oh, I thought I cut you off. No, that's, I'm sorry. But yeah, no, exactly. I think maybe that there is that sense of, because it was kind of taken away from us, but now, you know, we want to maybe engage with it a bit more. So maybe just to come back to Zulekha, about your poem, how much, you know, in terms of your other poetry, do you write about nature or these things a lot, or was it just specifically for this anthology you wanted to focus on it?
The previous poems that I've done, I do them about nature because I'm really interested in nature and adventure.
Yeah, and adventure. Okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah, definitely. And what positive impact do you think it does have? Like when you're out in nature, what exactly, you know, how is it helping?
Because a lot of people, they have mental health problems and just like anxiety and stuff. Yeah. And when you go outside, you get to like more social and see how the world really is.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, you've mentioned you have mental health and anxiety, and that was definitely exacerbated during obviously lockdown as well for many people, not obviously just young people, you know, across the board. And actually, yeah, you're right. I think going out in nature, I mean, I love hiking, I love going on walks, and it can be something as simple as just looking at trees or looking at birds flying. And, you know, it's the really simple things that, you know, alhamdulillah, that, you know, when you view the world, you know, with that perception that there is a purpose to everything, you know, and, you know, there's signs and everything, you know, because obviously Allah says that as well. So it's, you know, just reminding yourself. And I think it's really lovely. And, you know, there's work that I've done in the past where we've done things like creative writing walks, you know, where there's an encouragement there that as you're walking, you're writing at the same time, because you never know what you might be inspired by or what you might see. And obviously your poem Snow is an example of that, because you're really encapsulating how, you know, your feelings and thoughts and all the things that you know in terms of what snow brings or what winter brings. So that's fantastic. So thank you. So who do we have left? I think it's Asma. Would you be happy to share your poem? And and we'll talk a little bit about it after.
Differences in the world. Some people smile while others frown. Some people grow up while others choose to stay down. Some plants live while other plants die. Some plants wave hello while other plants say goodbye. Some animals are predators while other animals are prey. Some animals are pets while other animals are stray. Some buildings are strong while others are weak. Some buildings are the same as others while other buildings are very unique. There are many differences in the world and they all matter because without them here the world would shatter.
Fantastic, thank you. So obviously yours was looking at differences, and again in the first half we spoke a little bit about what inspired you to write that. I mean, my question really now would be that we talk obviously about differences and differences being good, but I think sometimes I find that in reality people find it harder to accept differences, or that there's kind of there's so much judgment going on. But how do you think that people should or can find comfort in being different to others? What are your thoughts on that?
It is good to have differences in the world, because if everyone was always the same, then there wouldn't be such thing as respect, because everyone would always be the same. But when there's differences, it builds up like different things like respect and having manners.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And I know there's so many conversations that I've had, like people tend to use this word like tolerance a lot. And I've never really liked that, because there's a difference between tolerating somebody and accepting someone, right? And you can say, oh yeah, but I'm tolerating, you're different to me, but I'm tolerating it. It's not really the same. There's a bit, sometimes I feel a lack of compassion there, that actually, yeah, you're right. I think with accepting differences and just, and it does come down to etiquette and manners and how you're showing respect to people. And it's also, I guess, okay to acknowledge that there's some differences which will always be there. There might be some massive differences, it could be based on culture or faith or so many different things. But actually, yeah, it's that human compassion for each other and being able to, I guess, transcend those, whatever the ego or whatever it might be. And it's so I think it's a really great choice of poem that you wanted to write about. Did anyone else have any thoughts on this poem on differences? So again, I'm not going to pick on anybody. If anyone wants to share what they thought of Asma's poem.
I'd like to add something. I think it was really beautiful to read, and it links very well with Jamila's poem as well, I thought, in the sense of how we should react to day-to-day life. And also, Jamila's poem focused on the inequalities in the world, and that is so prevalent in the world at the moment, especially with all the wars going on. But I think Asma's poem really brings to light the aspect of that respect, and we're all different. We're all different in different countries, but unfortunately, it's actually our differences that are causing a lot of the conflict in the world. And obviously, Asma's really brought to light how that shouldn't be a cause of problem, but something to celebrate instead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that this idea of celebration and celebrating differences is definitely the key there. And obviously, especially in the things that we see around us. And actually, I noted what you said, and it's really interesting, because even though all poems are different, there is an overlap, and naturally, I guess there would be, because the theme is empowered. But yeah, I mean, looking at differences, equality, emotions, the idea that we need to be optimistic and be in nature and all those things. Actually, it's great that the overlaps that are there, and I think all the poems have that really good message, and there's a sense of positivity in all of them, which is fantastic. And so maybe I should just elaborate a little bit in terms of the whole school. So obviously this is you're the English teacher there. This it's kind of an English department thing. But has there been an impact of being involved in the competition and having a book published on like the wider school, or will there be an opportunity to share this wider, I guess?
So when we done the competition, it was for all the students at the school, but some teachers did get involved, not necessarily in the competition, but just in general. We had a day where we celebrated the importance of and the pleasure of writing poems. So we had an assembly where everyone read out their poems, teachers included. So it was a really lovely occasion that we done, and it really celebrated that we all have these skills and qualities, and it was lovely to see.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so and where can, if is it possible to purchase this book, or an ebook, or somewhere online, or to get access to read some of the students' work?
Yes, I believe it's on the Young Writers website.
Would you know that by heart, just so if our listeners want to visit the website? Or if not, we can ask Inspire to share it, but just in case.
I actually don't know by heart, but I can always send it over to you.
That would be great. Okay, but so it's the Young Writers competition.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's amazing. So we can kind of access it there. Fantastic. So now I guess maybe I'm going to ask. We're going to be wrapping up the second half of the show now. Do you have? I'm going to ask you all individually any kind of advice for any budding writers out there or other young people who'd really be interested to write something or write some poetry. So maybe Asma, we'll start with you and just come around. Any advice or tips that you have?
Well, I would just say, especially linked to poetry, you should always want to let out your feelings in your writing.
Yeah, so kind of feel, are you trying to say not to be too shy about writing about those things? Yeah, exactly. I think maybe you need to, kind of have that confidence in yourself that, you want to write about something and then share that. That's really good. I like that one. Zuleika, do you have any tips or advice?
If you're going through a hard time, or you're having a bad day, I have a tip. Maybe just express your feelings and write a poem about whatever you're going through.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, it's really important you said that. I know it might sound a little bit contradictory to what I just said, but the fact that Asma said it's really good to write about your emotions and stuff, but that it doesn't necessarily mean you need to share it with other people. I think you're absolutely right. I think if you've had a really hard day or you're going through some sort of difficulty, sometimes just putting your thoughts onto paper and just reading it out aloud to yourself, it doesn't have to be for anybody else. That can be a really cathartic process and can really help process the emotions. So no, that's really great piece of advice, definitely. Jamila, how about you?
So I think that when you're writing, you should try to include reality. So maybe you should observe reality, so the writer or the reader could relate to the
no, definitely. I think because you want your writing to be relatable, and I think that's why a lot of poets and writers, maybe poets specifically, they tend to write. I know I'm generalizing. I guess when I tend to write poetry, it's part of my lived experience. It's something that I know I can talk about from my own point of view, but it also means that naturally that there'll be other people who can potentially relate to it because it's a real experience that someone might have had. I think that's definitely important. Obviously, it's different when we're writing maybe fictional writing or something like that, but even that tends to sometimes be kind of steeped or inspired by some sort of reality. So no, that's really good. Noel, do you have a tip or a piece of advice?
I think it's important to always let your ideas flow and to be creative, because that will always help you create the best poetry that you can.
Yeah, no, I like that one. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but when we say go with the flow, there's definitely something to that. I know there's an exercise when I run workshops and stuff. I've always there's Julia Cameron who's written a book called The Artist's Way. There's Noel Gregg who's written a book on playwriting, and they both kind of encourage this idea of this free writing type of exercise where you just writing your thoughts without stopping and just continue writing. And actually it's a really good way of letting go of the inhibitions that you might have, because sometimes we spend a lot of time worrying about spelling or worrying about something, does it make sense, or these things. But actually you're right, sometimes you just need to trust your thoughts and just put it in paper, and you can obviously tweak them and edit stuff later on. But I like that, just to kind of let the ideas flow. Thank you. Ruhi, how about you?
When writing, I feel like it's important to have a base idea of what you want to write, so you're confident in what you're writing, and then from there you can experiment with different ideas, and then it will just come to you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, that's great advice. Actually, to have a base idea is always a good starting point, and then you can kind of build on that. Yeah, absolutely. You can have some sort of structural framework, after that. And I guess maybe that's why the theme empowered is kind of helpful sometimes. If you have a theme to write about, it kind of helps you hone your creativity into one type of topic, and you approach it in a different way, I guess. So yeah, definitely always start with something that you want to write about, and then like you said, you can add things later. That's amazing that the advice that you've all shared and the tips is they're really, really good. And again, thank you so much to all of you for taking your time out today. I know you should be in lessons, and I'm sure you're really, really upset that you're missing that whichever lesson it is. But thank you obviously to your teachers and for letting you take time out to be on today's book club show. So we have been talking to Asma, Zuleika, Jamila, Nawal and Ruhi from Al Hikmah Girls School about their poems from a part of the Young Writers Competition and part of the Empowered Anthology. So just to wrap up, I guess, Aisha, just to come to you, is there anything in the pipeline, or is there something happening that we can look forward to, just generally, in terms of Al Hikmah Girls School, that we can, because I'd love to have you maybe on the show again in the future. So if there is anything that you'd like to share.
So we're always involved in a lot of the awareness days and any competitions. I mean, just recently we got involved in a maths competition, and a part of ISA, which is an inspection inspectorate, and actually, mashallah, one of our students won the award, and she had her certificate and trophy awarded on Monday, and she came up with her own idea, which was anti-pollution something like that. But it was quite amazing, and she worked so hard. The presentation she done as well was amazing.
Fantastic. That's so great to hear. And again, it's such an important thing, again, to be talking about in terms of climate and things like that. So that's lovely. So thank you for Aisha, obviously, to yourself for helping organize this, and again to the girls for sharing their lovely poetry. So that was the book club show, today's show, and obviously I'll be back again inshallah next week with a new guest and hopefully a new book. In the meantime, please do keep all of us in your du'as and in your Ramadan intentions, please, and we will hopefully see each other again soon. So assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.